So Jock, I'm fascinated in, just before we start, around the shoe business. Tell us a little bit about that thumbnail sketch of that story, the Jock Fairweather shoe business.
Yeah, sure. So the really quick version is, since I can ever remember, I wanted to play rugby for Australia or design women's shoes.
Of course.
Yeah, so it was in like a end of year 4 school book.
Okay.
And so when I was in grade 12, I was playing really serious rugby and I hurt my back pretty badly. And so I decided I'd continue down the shoe path, applied for London College of Fashion, and I got in. So when I was 17, I moved over to London and I stayed there for almost 8 years. And towards the start of the journey with London College of Fashion, I approached a shoemaking factory just outside of London. And I said, I'll work for you on the weekends for the next 4 years while I'm studying. Saturday, Sunday, I'll do anything you want. As long as when it's time for me to create my first collection, you'll do it for free. Because to create your first collection can cost up to £250,000.
Wow.
So I didn't have that kind of money. So anyway, that happened, presented the first collection. When I presented to a panel, a buyer from Harrods, Harvey Nixon, Feathers all took pieces of the collection. So I packed my stuff up in a suitcase, walked around Europe, spamming people, and ended up getting 25 stores. And after the first season, I sold the majority to a Swiss equity conglomerate who basically ruined it. And that's when I decided to come back home and see what I was going to do.
Okay, cool. Well, that's an exciting story all on its own. So great lesson. What did you learn out of that? What was your key take-home lesson out of that? The good thing and maybe the painful thing.
You need mentors in your life. If you try and run a business on your own, you'll spend a lot more time and money than you should. The second thing is, don't sell the majority of your company if you still want to be part of it. And the best thing I learned was, I grew up, I think, between the ages of 19 and 21 when I started that company and sold it. I'd learned more in that 2 years than I had in the first 19, 100 times over.
Okay, cool. So that takes us to food. So tell us about Little Tokyo and what you're doing with from an incubation point of view and a business growth point of view.
Sure. So Little Tokyo 2 is a co-working / incubator / accelerator space. It's a hybrid. It began just over 2 years ago when I bought the oldest Japanese restaurant in Australia, and I told my mates that they should all go live there. We'll drink beer and I'll help them in business. So I'll help them do BDM work. And they all said that sounds great. So we moved in and organically it grew to where it is today, where we operate 5 sites. We have around 600 businesses. And I don't have particular specialties with agri. However, we have a ton of businesses within Little Tokyo that do. Because we look after people with just ideas, startups, enterprise, and everything in between. Our common vetting mechanism is passion, personality, and purpose. Okay. And so you can be any industry and any experience level in that. So it means that we get access to all kinds of mentors and all kinds of experience within the one space, and all really amazing people. So when I was asked to do this, I said, of course I can, because I can represent probably 20 agri-businesses just within our space.
Awesome. So just explain, how does it work? If I'm a phenomenal entrepreneur and I come and I meet you here and I say, well, I want some help, what do they do? What do they get from Little Tokyo?
So there's a bunch of different things. Of course, there's space that you can use. So as a member, you can come in and use boardrooms, you can come to the events, you can drink the unlimited tea, coffee and beer, you can use the internet. Of course, you get to sit next to other really, really amazing people. So we have people that come in that just have ideas, as you said, who come to just explore, to speak with people and ask, like, how did you develop that? Or what is if this, then that? And they sort of explore ideas, come up with them. We run all kinds of programs as well. So the Startup MVP, it's a weekend intensive where we teach you everything you need to know about starting a startup. And so if you do that, we teach you how to actually find a problem that's worth solving. We help you iterate to the solution, test it, validate it, and so on. So not only do we help you one-on-one in a mentorship capacity, but we also run all kinds of programs where we facilitate experts in each different field to make sure that you get the best of the best.
And in terms of the ecosystem, you've obviously got a lot of different companies. Are are these startups sort of happy to help other new startups coming through? Is there a real collaboration?
Yeah, absolutely. I can't speak for the startups that aren't part of like my ecosystem, I suppose, because each different space or each different sub-ecosystem has their own culture, and ours is our own, and it's quite different to the others. But so far since we've opened, we've never had a single issue with a fight. I think we've only had to ask one person to leave, and we've never had one single IP issue. So, we do have double ups, but it's not like a very straightforward double up.
Okay. So I mean, there's a lot of startup incubators and accelerators that they're proliferating all around the country. How would you explain the difference between Little Tokyo and some of the others that are out there?
That's a good question. I think there's two major factors that make us different. One is the diversity. A lot of the places that you'll see pop up, even if we include Wandering Cooks, they have an industry vertical that they specialize in, which is fair enough. A good way to run a business is by having, focus and not trying to be everything to everyone. But our long-term goal is to have depth in Southeast Queensland and to be able to support people from high school all the way up to government, which we're currently doing with programs, space and investment. So the second part of that is that we vet. Like I said, not everyone can be there. We're super open, of course, but we need the right kind of people that can fit our culture to foster the innovation and collaboration that we believe that we have.
Yeah, cool. I'm really interested in your thoughts around user-centric design versus competitors. So when you're helping companies that are trying to grow, how do you get them to explore their ideas and their opportunity and the scope in relation to either competitors or opportunity?
Yeah, so mostly it's to do with understanding your customer and actually getting involved with them. There's obviously technical ways you can do it through software by using programs like Hotjar and seeing what they're actually doing. You can do heuristic testing, so you can literally sit here with a customer and say, do this task on the website, but speak out aloud while you're doing it, and you can see how they're using your website, and thus you can make tweaks so that can convert higher or users can enjoy spending time on there. But most importantly, it's about like validating an idea that someone actually wants to buy. So when I was doing my shoe company, for example, I had a group of around 20 ladies that were all sort of the same target demographic. And once I'd come up with the original concepts and ideas in 3D mock-up form, I'd get them all over for wine and dinner, and they'd have a bit of a party and try on the shoes and give me their direct feedback. I'd make those tweaks, and thus I'd created a collection that the exact women I wanted to buy them wanted. In the same way with Little Tokyo, when I came back from Europe and I was trying to figure out what I wanted to do, all of my friends were too busy to play golf with me, so I started asking them questions about what they were doing, and they were like, too busy to play golf, unmotivated and lost at home. No one give me creative direction. All my services were spread out. And so I just said, cool, well, I'm going to build a house. You guys live there, and so on. And as I was building the house, I got them in, and I said, cool, what do you want? Events, mentors? And they were like, oh, we want a media room. We want this wall yellow. We want all these kinds of things. And I built exactly that.
Cool. So in terms of successful case studies, you've been around, how long have you been in operation, Little Tokyo?
Just over 2 years.
2 years. So have you got some case studies you can share with us around companies that have come in and had a bit of success?
Yeah, we've got a few absolute crackers. One that most of the people in the audience probably know is Taj Babari. He runs 56 Creations. So that company, basically they sell tablets to parents, I suppose, but for the children. They build them like a puzzle, and you can choose your colors and the size and so on. Once you build it, it teaches you like the basics of entrepreneurialism and business, and it also teaches you how to code. So when he was 14, which was almost 3 years ago now, he pitched in front of a crowd like this. They all told him, piss off, you're too young, it'll never work. And so the very next day I was sitting at the main table in Little Tokyo, he came in, he pitched me an idea, and I said, that's amazing, I'll help you out, of course. And so over the next 2 and a bit year period, I set him up with his investors and his mentors, and I helped him as much as I possibly could, mostly protecting him from people trying to take advantage of his talent and youth. And he launched 6 months ago, and he's been, he came second in Young Australian of the Year. He's been in every media thing ever, and he's made massive sales. So that's one really amazing one that came out. We've had 40 groups outgrow us, which means they've gone past 6 to 8 people, so we can't actually host them more. I think we've facilitated just over $50 million worth of investment projects. And we have amazing ones out there, but they're all a work in progress, just like we are.
Sure. And how do these companies go about attracting investment? They've got a good idea. How do they do that, and how do you help them do that? And where does the money come from?
Well, I think if you actually want investment, it's all about building a long-term relationship, because it doesn't matter how good your product is or how good you seem on the surface. If I don't know you well enough, I don't trust you, and I can't see longevity in you, I'm not going to give you any money. And so you need to actually build trusted networks and build relationships with people so that in the end, they kind of are just offering you money. They're like, how can I get involved, Jock? Pitching is great for exposure, but there's no such thing, or I haven't seen it yet, getting up on stage and pitching and someone chucking money at you. It just doesn't work like that.
Yeah. So in terms of a company coming to you for the first time, what's the first couple of things you say to them to go when you say go away and think about it? What are the things you want them to really think about in terms of whether they really want to go ahead with this? Because it's a long, hard, painful, risky journey. What are you challenging them with to go away and think about before they come back and get really serious?
Yeah, I think one of the reasons people either love or hate me is how forward I am with that kind of stuff. I'm very transparent. And I do think that business or starting a startup is the hardest journey you could ever go on. There's plenty of ups and downs monetarily, with relationships, with mindset. So I tell them all those things, and I don't really believe in part-time entrepreneurs. If you've really got it and you're really going to make it big, you've got to go all in. Obviously, there's success stories of people coming across from their corporate job after it hits a certain capacity. But to really take it to the next level, you've got to be all in and basically be willing to risk everything but the house. And that's kind of the kind of advice I give them beyond the technical advice around validation and actually, tweaking the products.
Yeah. And just one last question. In terms of those that are successful, I've asked the venture capitalists once, what was the reason for failure when they had a failure? Was it the product or the technology failed, or was it the business, the execution, the marketing? What's your experience?
My experience is the number one reason businesses fail is cash, but the number one reason for that being a failure is the team. And so I would bet on an A-grade team with a C-grade product any day over an A-grade product with a C-grade team.
Awesome. That's a great place to finish. Thanks very much, Jock.